Shafay, I want to talk this morning about insulin resistance. So it seems that the most common thing that everybody wants to know is what is insulin resistance and what causes it. So welcome in. And this morning, what we want to do, what I would like to do, is talk about the causes of insulin resistance based on new science. So, not the old stuff, not the stuff that you guys have been hearing from the American Diabetes Association and, when you're fat, you get insulin resistant, all the stuff, all the things that are old science or unproven science. We want to move into a realm where scientists are now digging into insulin resistance, and I want to give you some real answers based on current scientists who are working in the field. So, welcome in and let's learn a little bit about insulin resistance and, better yet, how we can take care of it. So, I am going to be talking about the protocol that I use to overcome my insulin resistance, diabetes, my high blood pressure, my edema, all the things that I was suffering with that had me feeling really insecure in my late 50s that are gone now. So, let's dive in. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Let's get into it. So, the title of this is Breaking the Cycle of Insulin Resistance. And we do want to talk about the modern science, the real solutions, and the power of the system that I'll talk about. So, to understand insulin resistance, it's crucial that we lean on the work of leading experts like Dr. Ben Bickman, who is a top metabolic scientist in the field, and Dr. Jason Fung. Now, with Dr. Jason Fung, some people will say, oh, but he's a nephrologist. Well, he started looking at insulin resistance because he started understanding that so many of the people that came into his clinic for help with their kidneys were also insulin resistant or diabetic. And so he started thinking, what's going on here? And he dove into the links and has worked with Dr. Bickman as well. So, you guys, we need to get rid of this idea that only specific people can have certain knowledge. Um, they're very well educated people. And so let's dive into all of that. But um, they both emphasize that modern lifestyles, rich in refined carbohydrates and sedentary behaviors, we will talk about that a little bit today, as well as chronic stress, are primary drivers for insulin resistance. So, how many of you guys have heard that, oh, you only get diabetes or you only get insulin resistance when you get obese? Like, obesity is the main driver. Even when I'm doing research, I still see this come up today. So, give me some hearts or tap a one in if you've heard that diabetes is fundamentally from genetics or that you're overweight. Um, Put a one in if you've heard that. I'm cold this morning, you guys. It's cold over here. So, okay. Well, so here's the thing. Neither one of those are specifically true. Okay. Yes, there's a correlation between weight gain and insulin resistance, but what if we start leaning into the fact that insulin resistance building in the background is what's causing the weight gain in the first place? So, if we understand that insulin resistance is driving the weight gain, and that at some point when you have all this excess weight and the insulin resistance can no longer deal with the sugars, now you're diabetic. So, was the weight gain the cause of the diabetes, or what really was the cause of the diabetes? So, we're going to talk about that right now. So, Dr. Bickman does a lot of research. He studies fat cells in petri dishes every day. He's on fire for metabolism. It's all he does. It's all he I mean, it's not, I'm not going to say it's all he cares about, but it's, outside his family and his church, it's the biggest thing he's looking at in the world today. So, he highlights how high levels of refined carbs and sugars flood the bloodstream with glucose, and that forces the pancreas to overproduce insulin. So, over time, with this overproduction of insulin, our cells become resistant to the constant signal, leading to insulin resistance. So, imagine this: you have energy in your system, you have a transport system for that energy. The transport system is a hormone called insulin. But at some point, there's so much insulin or this hormone in the system that the cells are no longer responding to insulin's delivery efforts to get the sugar in the cells or the energy in the cells. That's called insulin resistance. Along with that, we have overproduction or overutilization of insulin in some cells, and some cells are just acting normal. So it's not like every single cell in the body just says, I'm not dealing with you, but a good number of them are. And the term that we've called it is insulin resistance. So we need to understand that insulin resistance is not just the refusal to use energy. Sometimes it's overuse of the energy, and sometimes it's just normal use of the energy, depending on the cell and the location in your body and your body and metabolism in the first place. What happens to the energy when the cells can't take it up and the body's now becoming insulin resistant is actually what's causing the weight gain. So now insulin has this energy to deliver and it can't. It just can't. The cells won't take it up. Some cells are taking in what they need, some cells are taking in excess, but it still is not enough to get the energy out of the bloodstream. So what insulin then does is says, well, I have another load of this energy product coming in and I still have a full truck. So I've got to get rid of this. So it drives on over to the storage unit, which is your fat cells, and starts shoving this energy in the fat cells. That is why you're gaining weight. It's not the weight gain caused the insulin resistance. It's the underlying insulin resistance that forced you to store the excess energy in your fat cells. Now you're heavy. Now, what happens after that is eventually the fat cells get full too. So you can't just keep cramming stuff in a storage unit that has a specific size. It's eventually going to get full and be like, doors are closed, can't take any more in. So what's happening is my battery's low. Of course, my battery's low. What's happening is the body's taking in as much energy as it can. Some cells are angry. Some cells are saying, okay, uh, we're just taking in everything we can, and then the rest goes to your fat cells. When the fat cells get resistant to this glucose upload, energy intake, then they start to either shut down or spill that energy back out into the bloodstream. Now your blood sugars are rising. Now your A1C is going up, and now you're turned diabetic, right? But you'd been having a problem all along. Unfortunately, science doesn't have, I got to plug this in, science doesn't have a really good way in this current moment to test insulin. So it often gets missed or undiagnosed until you're diabetic. And we're trying to change that. Later on, I'll give you some calculations if you need it, but understand that this excess sugar, refined carbohydrates, is really one of the leading causes of insulin resistance. Is it the only cause? No, it's not. We're going to talk about those things. So, how many of you feel like you're constantly battling cravings, energy crashes throughout the day? And have you ever wondered if the foods you're eating are driving those struggles? Just type me in if you have felt like that, like you're constantly battling cravings and energy crashes, and no matter how much you're eating, your energy is just not popping up. Um, and you've had the thought that maybe it's my food that's doing this to me. Has anybody felt like that? Because I sure did. All right. So now, according to Dr. Fung, chronic hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood all the time, chronic hyperinsulinemia, or constantly elevated insulin leads to desensitization. Oh, why can't I say that word? Desensitization of um, of insulin receptors on your cells. And this resistance makes it harder for your body to use glucose effectively, contributing to metabolic dysfunction and weight gain. And he stresses that intermittent fasting and low carb diets are essential strategies for controlling insulin levels. Now, I know I heard somebody talking last week and they said, you know what? If anybody told me I would have had to do intermittent fasting when I started this, I would have never started. Christy, I see you. Okay. So we need to understand that we fast every day when we go to bed and we don't eat. That's fasting. All we're doing is extending that just a little bit so that your insulin levels can get into control. Now, Dr. Fung believes in this so much that in his clinic in Toronto, He oversees people and puts them on a fasting method to help get their diabetes and insulin resistance controlled, thereby affecting their kidneys and the work he would have to do later on, because he doesn't want to be in this place where he's having to take drastic measures to save people's lives from failing kidneys. He would rather them start to understand what's happening ahead of time so they can be healthy and not end up in his clinic. Amazing that a doctor feels like that, right? But that's Dr. Fung. So intermittent fasting is one of the clues that he gives us. Now, I want to go back to this desensitization of insulin receptors. I talked a little bit about it when I was talking about Dr. Bickman's work. So, really, what's happening is under the load of so much glucose or energy in the system, the cells just are desensitized. They just don't care anymore. Um, you have somebody who's picking at you constantly, bugging you constantly, and pretty soon you just don't hear their voice anymore. You just don't pay attention to them anymore. That's kind of our cells with insulin. And that's what Dr. Fung talks about. So um, we have um, we have this excessive carbohydrate load, which increases our chronic insulin elevation. And then what happens? Now we also have, well, let's talk about, let's ask, I want to ask a question first. Have you ever noticed that despite eating healthy or cutting calories, which is such a flawed idea, you're still not losing weight or feeling better? Or maybe you lose weight temporarily and then you go right back to feeling like you were, even though you feel like you're doing everything right. Um, it could be that insulin, not just calories, might be the missing piece of your health puzzle. So, how many of you guys have tried to lose weight, done the calorie counting? You mean like the HCG diet, restricted your calories down to like 1,200 calories a day, or even some people 500 calories a day, and you just feel like it's not working? Have you just thrown your hands up and said, I can't lose weight no matter what I do? I don't understand what's happening to me. I eat healthy. I don't overeat, and yet I can't lose weight. Angela, I see you too. So we're going to dive into why this is happening in just a little bit, but understand that this whole load of insulin is the key factor. We're going to talk about food and our diet in a minute. So just hang out with me, because once you understand the principles of insulin resistance and how we can manage that, then you will start to lose weight. You will start to have better cellular receptivity of the energy and the good stuff that your cells need. But I want to stop for a second, because we need to understand when we have this glucose dysregulation, it affects our gut, it affects our small intestine, and that's where our energy, our vitamins, our minerals all get taken up into the bloodstream. So when that small intestine is overloaded with glucose and it's taking in all that glucose, we're not getting in as many vitamins and minerals as we need. So now we're becoming a little bit nutrient deficient while our body is struggling to deal with the load of carbohydrates. I don't want to demonize carbohydrates, because I'm not saying you can't have them. I'm saying that our modern food environment has so much of it in everything that we eat that our bodies are just really inundated with it and no longer know what to do. And that's a problem for us. That's really one of the big causes of insulin resistance. So, we're gonna get there, you guys. I get you. Okay? So this is so true. It messes up our bodies. Yes. And you know what? I'm gonna pause really quick in this. I want to give a little personal story, because even me, like, I get the science, but I'm stubborn and I want to do my things and I want to do what I love to do. So when my son was here this weekend, I had protein before, but I made pancakes. We put chocolate chips in them and we had some syrup on it. Wow, that's a lot of carbohydrates. That's all the pancake, chocolate chips, sugar, maple syrup. That's all carbohydrates. And it tasted okay. It no longer tastes like it used to for me. But what I noticed was that high amount of sugar triggered a whole bunch of stuff in my gut. I had gut issues all morning. I wasn't feeling well because I've regulated my glucose so much, um, in a normal way, not in some kind of like I'm all carnivore and don't eat anything way, or I'm all vegan and don't eat any protein. But because of the work I've done over the last 3 years on my own body, it just shows me really quickly what's causing me problems. So, yeah, pancake breakfasts are probably off the table for me unless I wanna feel really sick for a day or 2 afterward. We don't notice it on the day-to-day because we're so inundated with it all the time. It's really hard to notice what foods are causing these triggers when we're constantly shoving foods that are unhealthy for our system into our system. Okay, so inflammation and fat accumulation. So we had high levels of sugar, we had the cells becoming resistant to insulin. Now, what happens when there's too much insulin and all this going on, we start to have inflammation, not only in the gut, but throughout the body. What happens in the gut affects the rest of the body. So, excessive insulin encourages that fat storage. We talked about that. Insulin is actually a store, not a storage, but it's a growth hormone. Thanks, Jamie. I see you this morning. So, this insulin causing growth is causing your fat cells to grow. Again, what we want to do is understand insulin and get it under control. The weight will naturally come off. Your health will start to feel better. Your gut issues are going to start to feel better. You're going to notice less inflammation in your knees, your hands, your feet, everywhere throughout your body, your joints. I remember sitting down one day about 3 months after being on the protocol. It was summertime. I'm in shorts. I looked down and I realized I could see my kneecaps for the first time in a few years because the inflammation had left my body as I was becoming more insulin sensitive. But this excessive insulin encourages fat storage. And once the fat is building, it starts to create inflammation. It releases inflammatory markers throughout the body, and inflammation further disrupts insulin signaling pathways. So now you have cells that are really resistant to insulin. We have the energy going into the fat cells. The fat cells are now creating inflammation in the body, which is worsening your ability to utilize insulin and glucose in the first place. Now we have a big problem. No. What? I don't understand no. So tell me what you're saying no to, and then maybe I can clarify. Okay. So, Dr. Bickman's research suggests that targeting inflammation can help break the vicious cycle. So, one of the things that we talk about a lot, or I talk about a lot, is there are actually three causes of insulin resistance. Glucose is the predominant one, right? That's a big one. Inflammation, whether it's from an injury, a surgery, just even any kind of trauma that causes your body to have inflammation to get cells there to heal, that starts off on causing more insulin resistance in many of your cells. Inflammation is really key. The more inflamed you are, the more insulin resistant you are. One of the keys to getting insulin resistance under control is to get your inflammation under control. But one of the keys to getting inflammation under control is also getting insulin under control. And there's a number of things, in fact, high cortisol levels, which we'll talk about in a minute, can cause inflammation as well. Okay. So, sugars, excess insulin, um, and now inflammation in the body are all triggers for this insulin resistance problem that we're facing today. So, how many of you guys feel like the weight around your midsection is impossible to lose no matter what you try? No matter what you try. That was me. I went into a doctor's office. She said I needed to lose 15 pounds for a hernia surgery that I had to have. And I literally broke down crying. What she didn't know, and what many of you understand, is that I tried. I did veganism. I did the medical medium. I did spreadsheets with all of the crazy things that people say you should do to get your weight off, to get the inflammation down, and nothing was working. I couldn't even lose 5 pounds. I needed the surgery because it was endangering me, but she said if I didn't lose 15 pounds, I couldn't have it. How devastating is that? And I know that if I went through that, many of you guys have gone through that too. How many of you have had your doctor tell you that if you just lost weight, everything would get better? But they never tell you how to lose weight other than calorie counting or calorie restriction, send you to a nutritionist who's been taught by people who are teaching us wrong and don't have the current science. Yeah, yeah, I see you. Okay. So, Christy, we're going to get there. Give me just a little bit more, and we're going to get to what the solutions were and what helped me, because this is really important. So now, not only is it excess insulin, too much sugar, and inflammation, we have starting to build in our system this mitochondrial dysfunction. So mitochondria are like the little energy generators in your cells, and they start to dysfunction as well. Thank you for the loves and likes, you guys. I really appreciate it. So modern science points to how insulin resistance can damage cellular energy processes, damaging the mitochondria that allow your cells to have and utilize the energy that we're putting in there. So when cells no longer respond to insulin, they can't effectively use the glucose for energy, and that leads to a decline in mitochondrial dysfunction, essentially starving your cells. So now you wonder why you're hungry all the time, why you don't have any energy all the time, why you have brain fog all the time, why a number of these things up here are happening. It's because your body, the mitochondria in your body, no longer are receptive to the energy, and they can't utilize the energy even if it gets into the cell. So you're becoming even more insulin resistant through the energy centers called the mitochondria. And that's a huge problem. Excess sugar, excess insulin, inflammation, and reduced energy usage through the mitochondria in the cells. All of this is building to this insulin resistance and causing diabetes later on. Okay. So now, how often do you feel drained, like your energy's just zapped no matter how much you rest? And do you think that your body's ability to use energy might be broken down because of insulin resistance? If you didn't think that before, I hope you recognize that now. A lot of this anxiety, depression, brain fog, fatigue, sugar cravings, food cravings all lead back to this energy reduction within our cells, and our cells are struggling. They're hungry because they're telling you we need more energy, but we can't get the energy in when we eat it. So, what are we supposed to do? Well, we got to start to reverse this whole process and get the insulin under control so the cells can be more responsive, the mitochondria can work better, the inflammation goes down, all of that starts to happen. The way that I found that helped me is simply the Feel Great system. It's a tea that I have in the morning, which I haven't been sipping because I don't know why. So every morning I have this tea. Whether I'm live or not, I have this tea in the morning, and then I have another one about noon. Why? It helps me with energy, satiety. It helps me with insulin resistance because I'm becoming more sensitive to sugar through a number of mechanisms in the tea. Okay, so this tea is a concentrated yerba mate drink, and it's been shown to increase your GLP-1 by up to 70%. And that helps regulate insulin by improving satiety, glucose metabolism, and reducing the insulin response. So, by encouraging fat oxidation and controlling blood sugar spikes, it helps manage the causes of insulin resistance identified by today's experts that we just talked about. So that's just one piece of the protocol that reversed my diabetes, my hypertension, and all the things I was suffering with when doctors and nutritionists and everyone else were not able to help me. Like my own doctor has called me multiple times and just in disbelief. Like she worked with me for so long to get all this under control, and no medication she threw at me made me feel better. How many of you guys feel like that? Like your doctor just keeps pushing medications at you for your weight, for your brain fog, for your cravings, for your joint inflammation, for your IBS, for all of these things. You just keep getting more, and hypertension or high blood pressure. You just keep getting more and more medications, but you're getting sicker and sicker, and none of the medications seem to be working. Does anybody else? Yeah, Christy, I get you. So, doctors, let's pause for a second. Doctors are not educated on this piece. I need you to understand that the books that the doctors are reading or studying when they go to school are written by pharmaceutical companies predominantly. So their focus is on figuring out how to give medications for issues. Their focus is not on how to teach you how to live healthier so you don't need the medications. It's all about getting more medications in you, and that's a problem. You're not deficient in statin drugs. You're not deficient in blood pressure drugs. You're not deficient in metam metformin or Monjaro or Zempic. You're not deficient in those things. So why aren't our doctors being told what really is causing this problem? And they don't really even get studies on insulin resistance or nutrition. So big, big clue here. 80% of doctors go through medical training without ever taking a nutritional course. They're offered one, but it's optional. And so less than 20% of doctors are actually taking that nutrition course. So when you go to a doctor for something that's lifestyle related, meaning the food we eat, they don't understand how to treat that outside of to look at these symptoms and give you this medication. There's a problem for all of us. And if you're like me, I ended up with 13 medications sitting on my counter, and the list was growing, and I wasn't getting better, I was getting sicker. It wasn't until I started the protocol, and I knew nothing about insulin resistance at the time, but when I started this protocol, the T was part 1 of it, my diabetes reversed, I'm no longer diabetic. My, insulin resistance, of course, my diabetes reversed, my insulin resistance reversed. My eyesight got better. My hair is now longer than it's ever been in my life. My skin cleared up, my skin tags went away, all of those things because we addressed the lifestyle-related nutritional portion of why I was sick. And I was able to ditch all 13 medications without understanding insulin resistance, just trusting that this thing was going to work because there's science and guarantees behind it. So the second piece of it is this fiber. I'm going to drink the fiber now because I do usually every morning anyway. I utilize the fiber like the system says. I have it before I eat, but I also have it in between times. Sometimes if I'm hungry, sometimes, if I'm feeling acid in my stomach, I will use the fiber. And why? Because things like Tums and some of those other medications are actually tearing down your system especially in your gut. This is building health in my gut. So I know that every time I drink this, I'm giving my gut health inside that it can build off of, grow from, and get healthier, which is going to affect my entire system. 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, and I haven't talked about that for a while. So if you guys need to know the difference between soluble and insoluble fibers, put a 2 in the chat and I will explain what the difference is and why that's important. It also has vitamins, minerals, and a bunch of plant substances that help with things like fat metabolism and your heart health. Okay. And it's as simple as this. And both of the products, you just mix in water. So you're just going to take this and hopefully I can rip this open today. There we go. Okay, so I'm just tearing the top off, and this is actually packaged this way so that you can just dump it into a bottle of water. Just like that. Now, when I drink this morning, today's a fasting day for me. I'm going back to my 36-12 fast now that my son is gone. So I won't eat today. This will not break my fast. This is going to help my fast. It's giving my probiotics in my gut food so that they can grow and be healthy. And when they eat this, it creates short chain fatty acids. When the short chain fatty acids are created, it increases my ketone production in my system. Now I'm going to add a little bit of electrolytes into this today. I've not used this electrolyte before, so bear with me while I pour this in. And the crazy thing is, you guys, it doesn't have to be just the fiber. I've mixed it with protein before when I need to get a quick hit of excess protein in while I'm eating, and this is going to thicken up, so I better drink it. So now I've added electrolytes into my fiber because I have an electrolyte problem. But I'm also fasting. Ooh, that's an interesting taste. I'm also fasting, so I want to make sure my electrolytes are up, so I'm not having muscle problems and health problems while I'm in the fasting period. That's part of why I add the electrolytes in on a fasting day. But that drink that I just drank, it's a multi-fiber pre-meal drink that slows glucose absorption, stabilizes blood sugar levels after meals, reducing the need for high insulin production. Remember, when we have high levels of glucose and it's hitting our body too quickly, we're producing a lot of insulin. What I didn't mention is that insulin is being created in your pancreas, which also creates glucagon and some other hormones. But this constant need for insulin is wearing down your pancreas. Eventually, your pancreas will shut down and stop creating insulin because it's just so inflamed and overworked. And we don't want you to get to that point, because now then you do need insulin injections all the time. So these two products, the tea and the pre-meal drink, have helped me so that I don't have to end up like that, because my pancreas was starting to shut down because it was under such load for so long. We don't want that to happen. Okay. So my chair just fell off my chair mat. Okay. So the fibers in that drink also slightly boost your GLP-1. So now we have a tea that's increasing your GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, which is the main factor in things like Mounjaro and Ozempic. But those are synthetic forms that don't break down, and they're harmful. They can be harmful to the body. This is increasing your own natural glucagon-like peptide 1. Now, when we're insulin resistant, that glucagon-like peptide 1 goes down. And so it causes even more insulin resistance, energy usage problems, and satiety problems. You just never get full. The tea does it by 70%. The fiber does it by a small percent. Now we're getting an increase of glucagon-like peptide 1 that helps with satiety and energy. And we're doing it naturally in a way that doesn't hurt your body. That's not going to cause things like gastroparesis, where food is just blocked up in your system. It's a much safer way to go about this, and a much more natural way that your body can understand and utilize, creating its own hormones to do the job that it's supposed to do. When you give your body support, like through these, which are just replacing what, not just, it's amazing. They're replacing what's been stripped out of our food. It allows our bodies to do the work naturally that they've always been meant to do. And that's really important for me and for many people, because, like I said, I was on 13 different medications and I was not getting better. So I swapped 13 different medications at a minimum of $10 copay a month. So about $130 plus twice a month visits to the doctor, and the time taken off to go to the doctor, and the travel and all the stuff, and the blood work and all the other tests that they were running. Yeah, I was spending more just on those health issues, trying to maintain them the doctor's way, than I spend monthly now. And my health has gotten better. So much so, like I said, it's made my doctor wonder, and she's asked multiple times. She's a little bit ditzy. I love her, but in some ways she can be ditzy. So um, I need to really talk to her about this system. There are so many doctors who are starting to jump on the bandwagon when they understand what this is doing, and that it can do much better work than many of the medications out there could do. Okay, so by combining cutting-edge science from experts like Dr. Bickman and Dr. Fung with clinical research backing the system from institutions like the Cleveland Clinic, University of Sydney, the Feel Great system offers modern evidence-based approach to reversing insulin resistance. So we're not looking at old science. We're not looking at pharmaceutical companies trying to push more drugs. We're looking at what really is affecting your body with science today by doctors like Bickman and Fung and many others who are doing the good work on this. Now, there's a guy named Mike Saunders who is a world champion powerlifting legend. He's also a scientist. He also has worked on this system and uses it himself. The other cool thing is, because it's real food, because it's real food that's gluten-free and halal, guys like Mike, who are athletes, don't have, and a scientist athlete, by the way, just stop. A lot of powerlifters are really intelligent people. Let's break that stigma about powerlifters. They're, most of the ones that I knew are extremely intelligent. So Mike Saunders, athlete scientist, helped with this and continues to work on metabolism every day, and works with the company to help produce things that affect our metabolic health. These two products were put together a little over 3 years ago, when they realized this combined with this does magic even more than this alone or this alone for your metabolism. That's how the Feel Great system came about. Why has nobody really heard about it yet? Because it's so new, and we have a lot of pushback from pharma, but we're doing the good work getting it out there. So, what exactly is the protocol? Is it the tea and the fiber? Yes. So, the protocol is this. It's simple now. Now that we understand why they're working, right? I hope you guys understand that part. I have the tea. The protocol is this, it's a highly concentrated form of yerba mate. Let me come back to that. We'll answer this. Ugh. So TikTok hates when I start talking about the product. I don't know. There's so many people on here selling so many different things, and it's whatever. So the protocol: a tea in the morning. Now, the tea in the morning is helping you during a fasting moment. So we're just extending that fast. Remember, in the morning, so you eat your dinner, stop eating. You go to bed. Now you've slept off, rested off about 8 to 10 hours of a fasting window. We want to get that fasting window to about 16 hours. So instead of having a big carbohydrate laden breakfast, we're going to have this tea, which again helps you with insulin sensitivity, helps you with satiety, helps getting in vitamins and minerals. Every vitamin and mineral needed to sustain life is contained in this tea, and it's concentrated and cleaned. It's concentrated about 375% more than a normal bagged yerba mate or canned yerba mate tea. Okay. But it's also been purified. So PAHs, toxins, and whatnot have been removed. So now you have highly potent, highly clean tea. I start my day with this. It gives me energy, helps me feel full. So I don't even think about food right now. And then when noon rolls around, or about noon, so if you eat dinner at 6, your 16 hours of fasting would end about 10 a.m. But I go till about noon before I eat, and then I will just have another tea at any point. I can have it before my meal, I can have it between meals to help kick down cravings and energy, boost up energy between my two predominant meals of the day. That's the tea part, morning and afternoon. There's no prescribed time or distance between a meal. It's simple. You're drinking a tea that's giving you a lot of health. You want to drink the tea with your meal? Do that. It's not that difficult. This piece, the fiber piece, we're doing one of these a day. I do it every meal just because I love what the fiber does for my gut and my metabolism. But you want to choose the meal with the most carbohydrates. For most people, that's going to be dinner time. When you're sitting down with your family and you're enjoying, mashed potatoes and rolls and whatever else you have on your plate, you're going to use this. This will reduce a blood sugar spike up to 43%. So now, do you have to feel guilty about having mashed potatoes with your chicken or your steak? No, this is helping you with that. Do you have to worry about that roll you want to have with your steak? This is helping with that. Now, some people are more carb sensitive and they may have to adjust a little bit more, but this, for the majority of people, alone is going to help with that blood sugar spike and get you more insulin sensitive. The less we have to elicit insulin, the more sensitive we become to it. So, what's happening with this is instead of um, throwing a bunch of sugar in our system that is not regulated and just hits our system too quickly, we're slowing down the delivery of that sugar, which means instead of it hitting the bloodstream all at once, cueing the brain, oh my gosh, there's all this insulin or this sugar in the system. We need to create a lot of insulin to go deliver that. Instead, we have a slower, more like time released delivery of the sugar. Insulin levels stay lower. Now we're becoming more insulin sensitive. Both of the products are helping with that. And that is how I reverse my diabetes and my hypertension. So, a tea twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, and a fiber before your biggest meal with carbohydrates in the day. That's it. You're not doing meal replacements. You're not doing any of those crazy things. You're not popping a bunch of pills. The tea, by the way, tastes like a lemon iced tea, a light lemonade, maybe. It has a great flavor. Almost everyone that I have have given it to loves the taste of it. And you can add things to it, like I added electrolytes to this. You can add things that don't spike your insulin to this. So no sugar. If you want to add a little stevia flavoring, do that. If you want to mix it with a different tea, you can do that. If you want to put cinnamon in it, you can do that. If you want to put ginger in it, you can do that. Cayenne pepper, all the like crazy things that I used to do for weight management. You want to add this um, to this, you can, as long as it's not something that spikes your insulin. Does it actually suppress your hunger? Yeah. So in my tab here on YouTube, um, there's a question over on Facebook, and I got to get to it. I'm sorry, Sheila, I didn't see it. But on my tab on TikTok, there's a tab called the T, and Dr. Huberman is talking about how yerba mate can elicit this GLP-1 and what it does. So satiety in the brain, satiety in the gut, GLP-1 actually helps that. This is increasing your natural GLP-1 by 70%. So yeah, you're getting a lot of suppression of hunger, both from cues from the brain. Now your brain is saying, hey, I'm not hungry. I don't need food. Your gut is a little distended. So it's like, hey, I'm not feeling empty. My body's not craving all this energy because this tea gives you energy. Your hunger cravings go down. You're not hungry. So, one of the stories I have is a woman, a lovely woman up in Canada, started the system and she was like, Misha, I don't know. Same questions as you, right? I don't know how this is going to work. I don't think it's going to work for me. I have the worst sugar cravings. I can't skip a meal. I can't do any of that. I'm not sure. I'm going to give it a try because I need to do something, but I don't really think that it's going to work. Day one of her starting the system, she's drinking her tea. She's like a little trepidatious, like, I don't know if I'm going to do this fasting thing. She's drinking the tea. 1 p.m., she texts me, what is in this tea? It's been all morning. Day one, I'm not hungry. I haven't even thought about food. And she said to me, the person who was so food addicted that I never thought I could skip a meal, I just skipped a meal and I'm not even hungry. I can't believe the tea did this. So, yes, it does suppress your hunger. Okay. Thanks for those questions. Now, I'm going to get to this Facebook question because it's important. Sheila says, newly diagnosed with untreated Lyme disease, while I've been thinking all your symptoms have been caused by only my diabetes, which I've been trying so hard to reverse. Also went through debilitating pancreatitis in the past year after being put on a GLP-1 drug, Trulicity. It's been a very long couple years. Sheila, I'm so sorry. Now, look, I worked in an infectious disease clinic. Lyme disease, it's real, but sometimes doctors are diagnosing that when it's not really there. We had a number of people come into the infectious disease clinic whose doctors had told them they had Lyme disease and they didn't. So that's a hard one for me, but, like, if you have that, yeah, that can be absolutely, devastating and creating problems, so get the Lyme disease under control because the Lyme disease, the inflammation that it causes actually increases your insulin resistance. So that's another, remember we talked about inflammation and Lyme disease. If you, that's really the diagnosis, then that can cause a lot of inflammation and exacerbate insulin resistance, diabetes. So now, and this happens a lot, you guys, with all of these symptoms and disorders, there's these big links between insulin resistance and diabetes, or insulin resistance and other disorders. And they're bidirectional, meaning one affects the other and the other affects the one, right? So it becomes a little bit more difficult. But by addressing both of those things, you'll probably start to feeling a lot better. So the other interesting part about her message was she went through debilitating pancreatitis in the past year after being put on a GLP-1 drug called Trulicity. So I just had this conversation. We had a team meeting yesterday with my team. And one of the team members was talking about the GLP-1 drugs and that they can increase your natural GLP-1 by about 30 to 35%. And the tea increases it by 70%. So I want to clarify that, if I can take a moment to clarify that, because I don't want people thinking that, oh, when they say GLP-1 is increased by 35% with the drug, but it's increased by 70% with the T, and yet people are complaining about damage. Let's talk about why there's damage to your pancreas with those GLP-1 drugs. The drug, although it has the capability of eliciting your own natural GLP-1, which ebbs and flows in your body, doesn't last a long time in your body, is there when it's needed and goes away when it doesn't. That's a normal GLP-1 response. Those drugs are a synthetic form that don't break down. So, have you ever wondered why there's something that your body should produce at certain times and yet you're doing an injection of it once a week? Because the drug doesn't break down. You're doing an injection because the liver would break it down. So they're bypassing the liver, they're giving you an injection that's increasing all of this response by 300 to 400 times in a synthetic manner that doesn't break down and is consistent. So it's consistently telling your pancreas to work. It's consistently, telling your intestines to slow down, and you end up with gastroparesis, you end up with pancreatitis, you end up with thyroid problems, you end up with kidney problems. There's so many problems that people have reported from those drugs because the synthetic form doesn't break down in the body, and it's like leaving bright lights on in your house all the time. So it's great when you're up and working. Like, I have lights all over in here to help me with the show. But if I left those lights on all the time and had those lights on throughout my house all the time, I wouldn't rest. I would start to break down because my body needs rest from that light, and that's kind of what's happening with the GLP-1 drugs. You're not getting a rest. Your natural GLP-1 ebbs and flows. Synthetic GLP-1s don't. They're consistent, and that's part of the problem. So I hope that helps make sense of that, Sheila. Um, I can only imagine that it's been a very long couple of years. So from Sheila's story, I also watched a documentary on a woman who had been doing GLP-1 drugs, had gastroparesis, ended up in the hospital, went off the drugs because she realized they were literally killing her. But because nobody had told her what was causing her insulin resistance and weight gain in the first place, she started gaining weight back, and she went back on the drugs, ended up in the hospital again, and was like, "What am I doing? I'm killing myself over my weight." So why I'm here is to help you guys understand that you don't have to do that to manage your weight and your health. You just have to understand that we need to put back what our body needs, not synthetic crap that we don't need, but the nutrition that our body needs so that our bodies can do what they're meant to do. And that's exactly what the system does. So, now think about it. If you had a simple research-backed way to control your blood sugar, start feeling like yourself again, and lose weight while getting all of these symptoms under control, what would that feel like? And could a system that's proven to work, like Unimate and Balance combined into the Feel Great system, be the game changer that you've been searching for? If your doctors haven't helped you, if all this other stuff hasn't helped you, there's a 90-day money back guarantee on this. So you try it for 90 days. It's not damaging your health, it's building health. It's not putting all that weird stuff in that's causing negative response in your body. We're giving your body the nutrients it needs to get up and running and do what it needs to. If in 90 days you don't see results, you don't see improvement, you get your money back. Sheila, did Trulicity offer you a money back guarantee after you ended up with pancreatitis because of their drug? I'm betting that you didn't get any of your money back from that drug. I'm betting. Okay, I know for a fact that you didn't. They're just not doing that. And does your doctor give you a money back guarantee for all the visits that you went and he gave you this drug that didn't work and actually caused you problems? Like, where's the accountability for that, right? This protocol gives you a 90-day money back guarantee because we know that it works, and we know that it's creating health, and we know that it's helping people. So, yeah, there's a big difference in that. Now, so it's a 90-day money back guarantee. You get a low price guarantee when you use my link. Don't go to Amazon, eBay, Walmart. Those guys are not authorized. And you guys, I worked in soft goods and ski wear years ago. And there are people out there who will steal designs, products. They'll recreate your label, they'll recreate your packaging, and they'll send something out, and you think you're getting the real thing and you're not. We don't have any authorized sellers on any of those platforms. You're going to pay $100 more than you need to for it. You're probably not going to get the right product. We can't guarantee that product because it didn't come from the company. Please don't do that to yourself. I can't tell you the amount of people who've called me in frustration saying, it's not working. I didn't get any help from the company. I didn't, I don't get any of the money back guarantees because you bought off of Amazon and eBay from an unauthorized seller. So Sheila says her doctor didn't seem to care. And that's unfortunate. A lot of doctors, now look, I worked in doctors' clinics where there was a doctor who had a reasonable client load. But what you guys don't see is on the back end, the doctors are doing a lot of research. They're having to look stuff up. They're having to look through all of these prescribers' digital reference to find medications that can work for these, to find the symptoms that they're addressing, to figure out what's going on. The 5 minutes they're spending in the room with you is so little compared to what they have to do on the back end to get that 5 minutes with you. I want you to understand that doctors are not bad. They've just been educated improperly. Okay. So, and it's not, I don't think, now I'm going to say that I've worked with some doctors who really don't care. They're just all about the bucks, right? Just run the clients through, just get me more appointments, and I'll, whatever. I had one doctor that I worked with who saw, um, I don't want to misspeak, because he literally saw a client about every 5, maybe 10 minutes. So he was seeing around 200 patients a day. His time was the least amount of time with the patients. So he sent nurses in, they did most of the education, they did all of the intake, they did all of the stuff. They went and told him, "This is what's happening." He went into the room, gave you 5 minutes of time, and walked out. The nurses would actually stand outside the door and listen to everything the doctor said so they could transcribe it. But that doctor was so busy, but he was just like one of those patient male doctors. So there are doctors out there like that. There are doctors who really care. I've watched doctors work late hours trying to figure all this stuff out. So the problem is that most of them don't understand this premise yet. There's a lot of doctors and scientists who are out there educating these guys. And so hopefully that will be changing. All right. So the protocol actually does work. Now, before I hop off today, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, or one big question. What part of today's science, the stuff that's creating insulin resistance and what insulin resistance is, resonated with you the most? Did the idea of regulating insulin or controlling cravings or reducing inflammation open your eyes to new possibilities? What was it in today that that really hit you and made you go, "Oh, that's something I didn't know. That's something I needed to know." What was it? Type it in and let me know. Once you got really sick, he didn't take accountability for talking me into the Trulicity. Common, right? Big, um, that's a big lawsuit in the making, right? So they're going to backtrack a little bit because you were initially resistant to taking it in the first place. You refused insulin, so he asked me to compromise by the once a week shot. So can I talk about insulin really quick too? Why I'm doing this instead of doing an insulin shot is, look at you guys, just in the very simple basis. If insulin is the problem that's causing you to be sick because there's too much insulin, so much so that the cells are not listening to you, why on God's green earth would you consider taking more of what's already causing the problem? Why wouldn't you just go and say, it's like you have um, rot in your lawn, and you're like, "Ooh, that's bad." So you keep throwing new seeds on the lawn, but it keeps showing up rotted because you haven't addressed what's going on underneath the surface that's causing the lawn to rot. You just keep throwing more seeds on it, right? To grow new grass, but it's not working. It's kind of the approach that doctors are taking with a lot of our healthcare. We need to understand the root cause, and insulin resistance is really 95% of what's causing us to be sick today that's lifestyle related. And that's what the protocol does, bottom line. Okay. So, Sheila, I hope you've gotten some help out of this today. And if you need to, you guys, my number is here. I will, if you go to the link on my profile here on TikTok, not only is the protocol there that you can order from a reputable source and it comes directly from the company, so you get all the guarantees. There's a way to get a hold of me on WhatsApp. There's my website that talks about my story. And I'm updating the website because I really want to get some more success stories on there so you guys can see. This has helped people with lupus, with kidney disease, with liver problems, with acne, with hypertension, with PCOS, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, anxiety, fatigue, all of the stuff that's on that list. It's helped people with that. So I want to get those up. But I hope you got some help from this today. I'm going to sign off. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll talk some more about insulin resistance, its related diseases, and what you can do to feel better from it. Because once you know, you will start to feel better and life is going to feel much better when you have your health back. You guys, the biggest thing that we should be paying attention to is not our money, is not all of the other things that we think we're concerned with, the material possessions, all the stuff. It's our health. If we don't have our health, we're not effective with our family and friends. We can't make the money that we think we can make. Just life is more restricted. Even if you have a lot of money, if your health isn't good, you're not up to going and utilizing the money you do have. So take care of your health, make it a priority, and understand that this thing called insulin resistance is really impacting 93% of us with 95% of what is wrong with us. Goddess, I get goosebumps every time you're in my life, just to be honest. And so blessings to you too. Blessings to you too. So thank you guys for trusting me, for being here, for listening to me. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk some more. Message me, ask me questions. I want to help you. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Bye. Bye, Sheila. Thank you so much. And I really hope you start to feel better. It's devastating to hear news like this about people. I know I was there. I had very similar experience and it's it's debilitating how gaslit and unseen you feel by most doctors' offices.